Hey, this is Mark from Sound Matters, and here I have 3 records worth, or 3 months worth, of a VMP Classics subscription box, right? So I've been exploring a lot more jazz, soul and blues stuff recently, and this has been a great avenue for me to take that passion further. So 3 months in, I'm just going to take stock and we're going to explore each one of these records together and kind of just go over the subscription in general, and I'll tell you what it's been like. So I'll start by saying that jazz and soul in particular didn't really feature very much in my upbringing as such. You know, blues was a little bit different, but jazz and soul is something fairly new to me in terms of exploring a musical style. And, you know, like a lot of, young people growing up, I think I started off, my musical kind of journey, if you like, with a pretty fixed idea of what I did I didn't like. I grew up and was raised on sort of 60s and 70s rock music, and this shaped a lot of my adolescent choices, or my early, choices of music that I would personally go out and buy myself. So in our formative years in particular, I think it's pretty easy to kind of fall into a music scene and feel fixed within it. I mean, after all, in our younger years, we define so much of who we are by the music we listen to. It affects the kind of clothes we wear, the friends we make, our view of the world, and the kind of adults that we aspire to be. But as we get older and we develop a more secure sense of ourselves, I think a lot of these boundaries begin to break down. And instead of defining ourselves by sort of very narrow musical tribes, we instead start to develop a much stronger sense of our own personal music taste. And this can lead to us, rediscovering genres that perhaps previously we completely dismissed when we were growing up and we were in that fixed mindset that we had, growing up and discovering music for the first time. As an alternative rock kid growing up, if you'd have told me that by the time I was in my 30s, I would be really enjoying the likes of Aretha Franklin, Miles Davis, Louis Armstrong, Coleman Hawkins and so many other jazz greats, I'd have laughed you out the room. But when you're trying to discover a new genre or get more into a new genre that's not something that you maybe know a ton about and you're trying to learn more about it, a record subscription service is one fantastic way to do that. So this is 3 months worth of the VMP Classics subscription, which obviously gets you into jazz, blues and soul. So 3 months worth, I'm just going to talk through each record and what it's been like. So first up on the list was King Curtis live at Fillmore West, which comes in a lovely gatefold like you can see here, and this comes on a lovely nice thick card. I've been very impressed with the kind of board that VMP seem to release all of their releases on. So it's been the same from one month to the next. It's not changed or kind of thinned out or anything like that, but the thickness of the board that it's printed on that they seem to select gives a kind of weighty premium feel to each one of the releases, which has been really nice to see, and I've enjoyed that about it. It does make it feel more substantial and more kind of premium. Each one of these releases has come on 180 gram black audiophile vinyl. Now, in terms of it being 180 gram, it being thicker, the record being 180 grams in terms of the weighting in itself will not make the record sound any different, but what it will do is add more of a weighty premium feel to the record and also make it less susceptible to kind of things like warping. So that's what that kind of means to me when you say that 180 gram pressings are a kind of audiophile thing. And in terms of the colour, it being black, well, in my experience, coloured vinyl is very, very good these days, but the colourant can be a factor in how well the record moulds, and therefore this can have an impact on the quality of the record. And generally speaking, the consensus is that black vinyl is the safest bet when it comes to kind of an audiophile sounding pressing in terms of having a lower noise floor. So, for those who are concerned about that kind of thing, I think with the Classics range, they seem to mostly stick to black vinyl and it being on sort of nice premium 180 gram weight releases. Each one of them has come in a kind of MoFi kind of rice paper sleeve. It's nice that they don't release them in those kind of awful cheap paper sleeves, which are terrible for static and can leave paper flakes all over the record. So that's good to see too, that each one of them comes in a decent archival sleeve. And you also get a lovely booklet with each one of these as well. So every single one of these, each month has come with its own booklet that tells you a story behind the record, a little bit about the artist, and really gets you into the mood and the background behind what you're about to listen to, which is lovely to see as well. So each one of them has had that same standard each month, and it's been nice to see that it's kept to that standard, and there hasn't been any sort of wavering from the quality and from one release to the next. But just to talk a little bit about King Curtis as an artist, this has been a great discovery for me. You know, he was Aretha Franklin's saxophone player, and he's one of those artists that you'll know from so many famous records, including playing, you know, as a saxophonist on Aretha Franklin's Respect, for example. And this is his set live at Fillmore West. So his band were obviously going to be the background band for Aretha Franklin as she took her main stand at the Fillmore to try and, you know, win over more of a commercial kind of rock audience, if you like. And King Curtis's band were the band that was selected to deliver that whole kind of performance. This is a fantastic live record. I really enjoyed this from start to finish. I'd highly recommend you go check it out. There's also a few interesting covers on here as well. There's a cover of Led Zeppelin's Whole Lot of Love on here, which is really interesting, obviously an attempt to appeal to the more sort of rock-centric audience that were at the show. And there's a cover of a Stevie Wonder track in here as well. So but you know, each one of the musicians that's on this album is absolutely superb. The album starts off with every single one of the member of his band taking a solo. He invites each one of them to take a solo, and it's clear to see that the musicianship is just stellar from start to finish. I really enjoyed this as a kind of jazz album that has elements of blues and rock in there as well. It's a real exciting listen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and was a great introduction to VMP Classics. Next up is a complete change of vibe altogether. So if it's something unconventional and kind of different that you're looking to discover, then look no further than the Rubaiyat of Dorothy Ashby. And I hope I've kind of pronounced that right and done that justice. If I haven't, then sorry. But yeah, this is a fantastic record in that it's a jazz harpist, which is unusual to say the least, right? You don't see many of those. But she also plays another Japanese exotic instrument you can see on the front cover here called a koto. So there's all kinds of Eastern flavours, very exotic kind of sounds all over this record. And you know, as an artist, she grew up, you know, learning jazz from her father, I believe, and then kind of gigged all over Detroit to try and raise the money to buy a harp, because she fell in love with the harp as an instrument and really wanted to pursue that and wanted to apply that to a kind of jazz setting. Had a lot of trouble throughout her career kind of trying to convince people that she was a jazz harpist and that was a thing and that it could be done and it could be good. And you know what, by the way, it takes a lot of skill to be a jazz harpist, to make the harp rub up along a lot of other instruments, you know, like a piano or a saxophone or anything like that. That takes great skill and determination, because, you know, you put one foot wrong or whatever, you know, and the whole thing can go out the window. You know, the lack of chromaticism in the whole kind of instrument is very difficult to navigate. So, you know, kudos to her as a musician and her skill set. I'm a musician myself, and I'm not half, or never would be, or ever could be half the musician that Dorothy Ashby is, and it's been very impressive to kind of listen to. And one of the things I really do appreciate is fantastic musicianship, and it's very clear to hear all over this record. You know, she had to take a little bit of a side step in her career at one point, and actually was a composer in terms of the music for her husband's kind of plays for a little while before she got picked up by the Cadet label, which this album is on. This is actually the last album that she produced, and it's perhaps the most ambitious in that it really demonstrated that she was more than just a harpist, more than just a jazz musician, and that she could kind of go all over the genres in terms of Eastern stuff that was done there, the more exotic sounds that are on here, but also mixing in, you know, elements of Latin and kind of funk elements here as well. So it's a really diverse record, and one that was a real journey and a real element of discovery, but one that I could still, even though, you know, this was new territory for me, I could instantly appreciate it for the absolutely stellar musicianship that comes from Dorothy Ashby and her impressive performances all over the record. And last but by no means least is Abbey Lincoln's It's Magic. So it's a series of jazz standards performed by Anne Marie Waldridge, and she was later known, of course, stage name as Abbey Lincoln, and she's just a really superb, smooth, classic, warm jazz voice. And she was also a political activist at the time and was starting to get more into that. She'd often select songs that meant something to her to make sure that her delivery was honest and authentic and kind of really came through in the way that she would perform these absolutely classic tracks. And that's certainly the case. This is more early on in her career. I believe it's her second record, the first one that's on Riverside as a label, and it's a terrific record. I would suggest that this will warm your heart and warm your household, particularly if the weather's so up and down, which it has been in the UK over this summer. So Abbey Lincoln has really been warming the hearts of the Henschel house, if you like, over the last few weeks with this record. It's really superb. I recommend it for the evenings, and I recommend it even more with a good quality glass of wine. As I say, once again comes on that beautiful 180 gram vinyl in a nice archival sleeve, and we also have the booklet so we can read a little bit more about the artist. And I've really enjoyed sitting down with these records, very often with a glass of wine or a nice beer or whatever your drink of choice is, a cup of cocoa, whatever you want to do in the evening, up to you. But to sit there and kind of really unfold with these classic records, read about them with these lovely, nice little put together booklets with the sleeves on them, has been a really lovely experience. And this record has certainly finished off my 3 months so far on a very, very high note. And what struck me is every single one of these records has been different, but every single one of them is worthy of the title classic, So more jazz and soul coming my way in my life, that's for sure. But this has been 3 absolutely brilliant records. And if I was to apply some element of constructive criticism, because things aren't always perfect, then the Abbey Lincoln record did have a very mild warp, or does have a very mild warp on this record. Although it's not really a deal breaker. I mean, it's a very, very mild kind of blip on the record surface. I imagine a lot of that has probably happened in shipping. If it's been, I don't know, the heat changes in shipping can sometimes cause this, and I believe this has come all the way from America, or at least over from Europe. So it's a bit of a shame when these things happen, but I've never had a record subscription service where every single record has been 100% flawless every single time. And you know what, if you're able to take a video of the problem with your record and you can kind of prove the problem and a fault with the record, then in my experience VMP are very good at doing returns or swaps if you can demonstrate the problem to them in a very quick video online. So but just being honest and constructive in terms of the experience, but overall the overriding feeling has been that the quality is second to none in terms of other subscription services. So thank you ever so much for watching. That concludes today's overview of 3 months worth of a VMP subscription collection. And I should say for clarity that VMP were kind enough to send these records to me, but my opinion of course remains my own, and I don't just partner with anyone, only partner with brands that I respect and have a lot of time for in terms of what they do. And I really do love, and I'm very impressed and very happy with what VMP do, and would gladly recommend it to anybody who reads or watches Sound Matters content. So if you want to check out any of these releases yourself, you don't have to be a paid up member of VMP in order to order one of these records. You could head over to their website, to their shop, and you could buy one. As long as they've still got copies left, of course, you could buy one of those directly from their website shop. I'll put all the links in the description below so you can check all this stuff out in your own time. So all that's left to say is please like, comment and subscribe to this channel if you are new here. Really helps us out. And if you'd like to help us out further and you like the t-shirt that I'm wearing, then please head to our merch store at the link below, where you can check out all the vinyl related merch and goodies that we've got at the store waiting to be discovered there. So thanks ever so much for watching. We will see you in the next vinyl related video. We can't wait to see you then. Keep spinning. See you later.